friends, welcome back to your next Farm Friday zoology lesson. This week I will be teaching you about another insect, not the dragonfly that you learned about 2 weeks ago, but another insect. So again, our insects of the world have 6 legs, a hard exoskeleton on the outside of their body to protect what is inside. So here on our pictures, we in fact do not have the insect mishap that we'll be teaching you about, but I do have it here. I will be teaching you about the praying mantis. So this happens to be Miss Tabitha's favorite insect. 2 weeks ago I taught you about the dragonfly. I love that insect as well. But something about the praying mantis to me is very unique, and I find it incredibly fascinating. So let's get started. So with the praying mantis, as I said, it is in the insect family, has 6 legs, as you can see here on the diagram of the anatomy of our praying mantis. So I'll get started. So we'll start with the very front of our praying mantis. It has 2 antennae just off the front of its head. Those antennae allow it to feel vibrations. Maybe something has bumped into its head and is staying very still and it doesn't want to move, but it can feel it. It can feel if there's raindrops falling out of the clouds or out of the sky. It can feel if there's a shrub or a bush's leaves touching its antenna. So now we're going to move back to the eyes. Just like the dragonfly, our praying mantis has compound eyes. So it has very large eyes, and on its eyes it has several little plates that pull in the light, pull in the images that it's seeing, and then its brain takes all of those little images and puts them together to form a picture. But because its eyes are so large and on the sides of its head, it can see so much more. And also a very fun fact about our praying mantis is it can turn its head 180 degrees. So it can turn just like this without turning its body. It can turn its head and see something that is almost directly behind it. Either way, whether it turns left or right, it can see things that are almost all the way around. It cannot turn its head all the way around. That would be 360 degrees. But it can turn its head 180, which is half of a circle. So if it can turn its head this way 180 degrees, and it can turn its head this way 180 degrees, that means it can see nearly everything all around its body at all times. So that is the parts of its head along with its mouthpiece. That's not labeled here, but it does have a mouth, we know this. It has to eat. And its mouthpiece is sort of like a bird's beak. It can catch things with its mouth if it's not using its front legs, and it is able to crush its food before it swallows it. So now we're moving back to the thorax. The thorax is almost like this part of its body. As humans, we don't have a thorax, but this is about the closest approximation. The area between its head and its abdomen. So we're moving from the thorax. From the thorax come down the front legs of our praying mantis. And so our praying mantis has 2 front legs. It uses those front legs almost the same way we would use our hands to catch its food and to eat it. And here on its front legs, I'll hold this a little bit closer so you can see. Here on its front legs, it has tiny little, it looks like little barbs or little stickers coming off of it, little spikes. Those also allow the praying mantis to catch its food so that it can eat it. Either it will hold it like this and bring the food to its mouth, or it will catch it this way and eat it. They don't have hands, they have legs, but they have extra appendages coming off of those legs to allow them to eat their food and catch their food. So we've talked about the front part of our praying mantis. Now we're going to move back to the wings. So the wings, just like a ladybug, how its wings will come back into its body under its shell, same thing for our praying mantis. Its wings have a harder outer covering, but if it spreads those wings, the softer inner part of its wings are able to spread out. But it can protect its wings under this harder covering. The wings are just beneath. Some praying mantises have beautifully colored wings and bodies, while others are just a plain green or brown to blend in with their surroundings. I'll talk about that a little bit later in the lesson. So again, these are the wings and the wing coverings. Just below is the abdomen, which is like this part of our body, my friends. So there's the abdomen. If this were a female, that is where the eggs would be inside of her body. So from the abdomen are the last 4 of our praying mantis's legs. Its rear legs. Those are also used to walk on the grass, to walk up a branch, however it is walking, again, to find its prey to eat. So this is the anatomy of our praying mantis. Now I'm going to shift over to a few facts about our praying mantis before I talk about its life cycle. So as I said, some praying mantises are green, like this praying mantis. Some are brown. Some are a combination of green and brown to allow it to camouflage or blend in with its surroundings. But also in other parts of the world, such as Sri Lanka and South Asia, there are beautifully colored praying mantises because they live in a rainforest environment where there are bright flowers and brightly colored birds and insects and other animals such as small frogs and reptiles. So if it were just a green praying mantis, it might stand out a little bit. Even though there are green trees and leaves and bushes and shrubbery, its prey is not always green. So in those countries, there are beautifully colored praying mantis. But here in the United States, where we live, some of the most common species of praying mantis tend to be green and brown. Again, the reason they are that color is so they can blend in with their surroundings. A praying mantis is a predator insect. It hides from its prey, the food that it wants to eat, and it will stay motionless for minutes or even hours waiting to catch another insect, a small amphibian such as a frog, a small reptile such as a lizard, sometimes even small birds. Praying mantis have been known to catch and eat hummingbirds. They also can catch small mammals such as a baby mouse. They can catch and eat them because a baby mouse is very small. They are born very small, like the end of Miss Tabitha's finger or the length of your pinky finger. They're very, very small when they're born. So a praying mantis can easily catch them. And the reason why is because some praying mantises are about 2 inches long when they're adults, but other praying mantises can get up to 6 inches long. So that allows them to eat larger insects as well as larger animal species, like I said, such as small mammals, reptiles, birds, and amphibians. They're not very picky on what they eat, but they are carnivores, so they only eat other living creatures. They do not eat plants, they do not eat vegetables, no strawberries for the praying mantis. So as I said, they can get anywhere between 2 inches up to 6 inches, which 2 inches is about the length of my pinky finger, and 6 inches is about the length of my hand. So they are quite large insects. So we've talked about their anatomy, talked about where they live. And I'm going to continue because they live here in North America. I mentioned that they live in Asia. They also live in South America, Europe, Africa, and Australia. So that leaves off one continent, and that is the continent of Antarctica. Way too cold in Antarctica. They need a warmer climate because they need insects and other animals to eat. Antarctica cannot sustain an insect habitat and small animals. So unfortunately they don't live there, but they live everywhere else. They can live in the desert. They can live in grasslands. They can live in rainforest. They could live here on the farm. We have all of the animal species they would need to eat, so it is quite possible that they could live here on the farm. So here in the United States, we do not have native praying mantis species. They have been brought here whether on purpose or accidentally. So accidentally, approximately 150 years ago, a nursery worker was unpacking a crate of plants that had come from China, and he did not realize that on that plant was the egg case, and this is a real praying mantis egg case. On that plant was an egg case from a praying mantis, from a Chinese praying mantis. And so those plants were distributed, they were bought by people, they were planted in their yards and around their homes, and those praying mantis came out of the egg cases, and they thrived because here in North America we have all of the things that a praying mantis needs to survive. So commonly you will see the Chinese praying mantis, which is what this praying mantis is. There's also the European praying mantis, which was accidentally introduced again on a plant. It is a brown praying mantis. You might see those in nature as well. And also there is a praying mantis that lives in South Carolina and North Carolina called the Carolina mantis. It is also one of the smallest. It only gets about 2 inches long. They are brown and gray. They're able to camouflage. So again, if you have seen a praying mantis here in Virginia, out maybe on a bush at your house or in the grass, more than likely you have either seen the Chinese, which is green, or the European, which is brown praying mantis. It's okay that they are not native, but those are the ones you will most commonly see. So now I'm going to move on to the life cycle of the praying mantis. And as I said, this is a real egg case. At Miss Tabitha's house, I have some azalea bushes in front of my house, and that is the perfect habitat for a female praying mantis to attach her egg case. Because remember I said they like to live in trees and bushes and shrubs. An azalea is a bush, and it provides the perfect habitat because the praying mantis can hide under the leaves, and there are other insects. Maybe a butterfly comes to the flower. That is a great meal for a praying mantis, so they could catch it. They could catch a bee, they could catch a beetle or a dragonfly, or even, again, a small reptile or amphibian that might be hiding under the bush also looking for food. So I'm going to talk about the egg case and the other parts of the life cycle of our praying mantis. All praying mantis have the same life cycle, even though they may look different on the outside, they are still praying mantis. So I'm going to start with the praying mantis. The female praying mantis will lay her eggs, and it will be a soft egg case at first, because when it comes out of her body it is still wet, it has to dry. So it starts as a soft egg case. It looks a little bit like a toasted marshmallow. If you can picture that in your brain, not a white marshmallow, but a toasted marshmallow that's a little bit brown and it's just a little bit crunchy on the outside. So that is the soft egg case. Now we're going to move over to the hard egg case, which is what I have here. Again, it looks a little bit like a toasted marshmallow, doesn't it, my friends? It feels a little bit like a toasted marshmallow. I'm not going to press on it because there are still baby praying mantis on the inside, and they need to have time to hatch. So I'm going to be very careful because it is delicate. But again, the best approximation or the best picture you can put into your brain to think about what their egg case looks like is a toasted marshmallow, even though that sounds very, very silly. So after about 7 months, not quite that long, it depends on how cold it is, those baby praying mantis will begin to hatch out of the egg case, and they are called nymphs. Now, a really fun fact about a praying mantis is they look the same throughout their life. When they come out of the egg case, they're very, very small, but they look just the same as an adult. They will shed their exoskeleton, which means their body will grow and grow, and that exoskeleton they no longer need. They will grow a new one. The old one will come off, they'll shed it. The same way that a snake will shed its old skin, our praying mantis does the same thing. They're not the same species, but that's just a great way to think of it. So our nymph, it will take them from the time that they come out of the egg case in late spring, which is the season we're in right now, it will take them until about the middle of the summer, so about 2.5 months, to grow to adult size. And praying mantis live for about 1 year, sometimes a little bit longer, sometimes they live to about 18 months. They don't live a very long time, but they have a great impact because, yes, they are predator insects, but they will eat the insects or the other animals that can harm a bush or a shrub or a garden area. So if you see a praying mantis, leave it. They're doing the work they're supposed to. They are garden helpers. So again, like I said, that nymph will continue to shed its exoskeleton and grow until it gets to adult size, where it will live for, again, about a year, maybe 1.5 years. The female will lay eggs, and the cycle will continue. So a couple of things about a praying mantis. Sometimes you might have heard or read that the female praying mantis will kill the male praying mantis. Yes, that does happen sometimes. But also, sometimes the siblings, the brothers and sisters that come out of the egg case, they can't find any food to eat. So sometimes they eat each other. That may sound a little sad or scary, but in the natural world, that is what happens sometimes. You don't have to worry about it. It doesn't happen that often, but those are two things you might have heard about praying mantis, and they are true. One other thing about a praying mantis, if you will notice in the spelling of its name, praying mantis, Praying. So sometimes the name is spelled wrong, and it is spelled Preying. So praying, the correct spelling for praying mantis, sometimes we think of someone who is praying or they are talking. So that is the correct terminology, because a praying mantis will sit very still and it will have its front legs together and it will be waiting for its prey. But the word prey, the food that it eats, is spelled with an E. So sometimes there's a little bit of a mix-up, and it's okay if you accidentally spell it wrong. That's okay, but the correct way is with an A, because it looks like they're praying, even though they are praying, waiting to catch their food. So I hope you have enjoyed this lesson, my friends. I will be including the anatomy of the praying mantis, along with some more facts about the praying mantis. As I mentioned, I do have the egg case here. I will be putting it back outside so that the nymphs can hatch. And I'm going to include this really fun praying mantis fact sheet. It talks about how many praying mantis eggs are inside. There could be up to 300 or even 400 baby praying mantis nymphs inside of this egg case right now. But there could also only be 3 or 4. It depends on how many eggs the mother praying mantis laid inside. So again, I'm going to include this fact sheet because I thought you might find it fascinating, and how, if someone were to find an egg case, how it can be hatched. But the best thing to do is, if you find one, to leave it in nature. So again, I will be including this along with the anatomy and the life cycle, and a video of some baby praying mantis nymphs hatching out of this exact egg case. I happened to catch them hatching and I recorded it, so I hope you enjoy that. Again, I hope you've enjoyed this lesson, my friends. Again, if you see a praying mantis in nature, just take a picture or look at it with your eyes. Maybe draw a picture with a pencil on some paper, but try not to pick it up. They are very delicate. Even though they are large insects, they are still very delicate. Again, I hope you've enjoyed this, and I will see you later, my friends. Bye.